Oh, what a lovely weekend. It was my first weekend off all year. It's been a busy one in 2024 so far. Finally got to complete Spider-Man 2. But no rest for the wicked. So let's find out what happened on SmackDown. Come on, Cody Rhodes. Let's finish that story. Let's go. The real reasons WWE has ditched Cody Rhodes for The Rock at WrestleMania, a major backlash against WWE for said booking, and could Triple H be replaced as head of creative? I'm Oli Davis, and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Just over a week ago, Cody Rhodes and CM Punk had a match beyond the Rumble match. The final two men still standing, wrestling for a further 8 minutes to decide who got to main event the biggest show of the year, WrestleMania XL. And then, just 6 days later, neither of them were doing what they were supposed to be doing. First, CM Punk legitimately tore his triceps in his first televised WWE match for 10 years, likely putting him out until September and thus missing his planned World Heavyweight Championship feud against Seth Rollins. At least Drew got to sleep well. And on the 2nd of February episode of SmackDown, despite clearly pointing at Roman Reigns in the crowd upon winning the men's Rumble match, Cody Rhodes became the people's cuckold when he hinted Rock the Dwayne Johnson will be taking his championship match against Roman instead. Go watch Luke and Dan's emergency podcast review of that show. There's a link in the video description below. But, this is WrestleMania season, and this happens every year. WWE, they leak news to the dirt sheets to cover up their real plans. We got it 2 weeks ago, with Sports Illustrated reporting Gunther was going to win the Rumble. That's all this is. It's just another bit of fake news. Unfortunately not, because WrestleMania XL appears to be WrestleMania XL cursed. It isn't just Punk's injury that altered WWE's long-term plans. The World Heavyweight Champion Rollins had also injured himself several weeks before, and Brock Lesnar has reportedly been removed from WWE potentially forever due to him being referenced in Janelle Grant's lawsuit against Vince McMahon. And with all that star power down, WWE's new behind-the-scenes authority figure apparently decided he's the solution. On the go-home week for the Rumble, the same week that WWE announced their $5 billion 10-year deal with Netflix and Grant filed her lawsuit, The Rock was appointed to WWE's parent company, TKO's, board of directors. Dave Meltzer has written on the F4W forum that Rock was already pushing super hard to have his match against Reigns at WrestleMania, even though some in the company wanted to save it for a bigger payday at a Saudi Arabia show. And it was the injury to Punk and Lesnar's removal that meant WWE acquiesced. PW Insider, though, has a more cynical take. They report that The Rock put himself forward to save WrestleMania following all the card changes, but some behind the scenes believe he was going to push for this regardless because his $30 million stock deal with TKO depends on him hitting certain milestones that could include a return to the ring in 2024 and financial revenue generated. Personally, I don't buy much into that one, as if he was motivated that much by money, he would apparently make far more doing his return match in Saudi Arabia. Some of PW Insider's sources, though, believe Rock would have replaced Cody even without the Lesnar and Punk issues, and one even compared it to Johnson's attempts to take over creative in the DC movieverse. For those not familiar with that situation's uncanny valley similarities with wrestling, Rock was cast as the DC villain Black Adam in a match against DC hero Shazam, in that they would share the same film. But Rock, who had been attached to that character since 2014, 8 years before the film came out, lobbied for plans to change so he would get his own solo movie, which he did, to set up a bigger match, movie, of Black Adam versus Superman. PW Insider writes that Rock even went over the heads of executives to their superiors to get ideas approved, and that his long game was to gain control of the entire DC film franchise. That didn't work out. Black Adam was a critical and commercial flop, no matter how much The Rock posts otherwise, and that failure in Hollywood, this is me speculating here, could be a motivating factor behind Rock's return to wrestling where he can exert far more power. Remember that story for later on. Meanwhile, Fightful Select is reporting TKO had a big say in the change of plans, and they believed Rock vs. Reigns would make far more money than a Rhodes vs. Reigns rematch. Apparently, TKO still very much values Rhodes, but he was the victim of larger circumstances. Okay, well, maybe it's for the best. You know what they say, 3 times the charm? Roman beats Rock, making it even bigger when Cody wins the belt from him at WrestleMania 41. Yeah, but just one more thing. Fightful Select is reporting The Rock actually leveled up in his backstage power, with some claiming he is pushing to win the championship himself, ending Roman's near 4-year reign. Aside from money, there is, of course, another reason to put The Rock vs. Roman Reigns on at WrestleMania XL, perhaps making all that fan anger intentional. Because it's better to have everyone ranting about The Rock and tweeting "We want Cody" and mainstream news outlets covering that story instead of the very serious, very ugly, very damaging lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE. There's an argument The Rock didn't just do this for money, his ego, or even to save the WrestleMania card from injuries. Maybe he did it as a human shield to absorb all the hate for a bit and distract everyone from all that awfulness over there. Because not many people were talking about Vince over the weekend. Fightful Select have WWE sources backing up that sentiment, saying this is preferable to the coverage of Vince McMahon, but that's not going anywhere either. At least with this, there can be peaks and valleys, and some sane people can justify it. With the coverage we were getting last week, it was all negative. And maybe the company prefers to appear inept than malicious by proxy of Vince. But let's also remember, nobody officially ever said it was 100% going to be The Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania. All Rock did was walk out and have a stare down. Maybe it was just a tease for something else. And Cody's still going to get to finish his story at WrestleMania. Numerous sources have confirmed to PW Insider that The Rock vs. Roman Reigns is expected to be officially announced at the WrestleMania kickoff event in Las Vegas on February 8th. A press conference that, when promoted on last night's NXT Vengeance Day, got booed by the live crowd, who were also holding signs like "Rock screwed Cody" and "We want Cody versus Roman." WWE appears to have misjudged how much fans want to see The Rock versus Roman Reigns. Or maybe they judged it perfectly, and it's all a giant smokescreen to distract from Vince. Nevertheless, they will now have to weather a different kind of storm. USA Today and Forbes, 2 of the many mainstream outlets that have covered how negatively fans have reacted to the Rock tease, note that the full segment uploaded to YouTube has a massive 300,000 dislikes compared to just 71,000 likes. The hashtag #WeWantCody has also been trending on X worldwide. PW Insider writes that WWE are absolutely monitoring the responses. And it's not just the fans that are upset. Fightful Select claims to have spoken to 36 contacts in WWE in a row across all departments, and not one of them had a positive word to say about the decision, and that a member of creative said there was a backstage mood of deflation, which felt like when Vince McMahon would change plans at the expense of putting over newer talent. And some WWE stars are so unhappy about it, they're even talking publicly, as both Logan Paul and Ricochet have jumped on the "We Want Cody" trend. Which means the talent themselves, they're gonna stage an uprising, forcing WWE to change their plans back to Cody versus Roman, making them a company that prioritizes the future again over... Yeah, so that's probably a work. Dave Meltzer is claiming in his F4W Online daily update that Logan Paul and Ricochet tweeting about Cody is now an angle. Meltzer notes that how not one wrestler on the roster has posted anything about Vince McMahon, so the idea that they're going to tweet negatively about WWE booking without WWE's approval is absurd. He notes the idea is to recreate the Daniel Bryan Yes Movement success from WrestleMania 30, because really, this was all decided on January 3rd. In an update on everything we've covered so far, Dave Meltzer has reported on Wrestling Observer Radio that The Rock vs. Reigns at WrestleMania was agreed when The Rock signed his TKO deal on January 3rd, several days after his Day 1 Raw promo teasing that Mania match, and a full month before they changed plans away from Cody's Rumble win. How would you save this situation? Let me know in the comments. But this brings us all the way back to The Rock and that time he tried to take over the DC movieverse. PW Insider writes that Brian Gewirtz is being added to the WWE creative team to represent The Rock going forward. Gewirtz is an interesting case. He was a writer for WWE from 1999 all the way through to 2015, where he became The Rock's go-to guy for writing his promos. He left WWE in 2015 after a reportedly deteriorating relationship with Vince, where he would go on to become the senior vice president of development for The Rock's 7 Bucks Productions television company. And Gewirtz has posted a clip of The Rock's rapturous entrance on that episode of SmackDown with the caption, "You all have no idea." Perhaps meaning they really are planning for Cody to get added as a triple threat, just like Danielson at WrestleMania 30, and this is WrestleMania 40, which would mean all the Manias that are divisible by the number 10, apart from WrestleMania 10, will have been main evented by triple threats. Surely that's what's happening here! But there are concerns that Gewirtz is far more than just in the room to represent The Rock's interests. PW Insider adds The Rock vs. Roman Reigns was a strategic move to give Johnson more political power overall, and the show endeavours faith in his involvement, and that even Paul Levesque, who has done an admirable job as the chief creative officer, would lose that power struggle with Johnson at this point, as one source surmised. And that Gewirtz could even be there as a plan B if Endeavour ever needs to pivot WWE's direction and go with a Johnson-backed creative team down the line. Which could be especially useful if TKO does decide to clean house following Vince's departure. Fightful adds that this marks a huge power shift in the wrestling industry, indicating that the Anoa'i family, comprised of Johnson, Reigns, and several other industry names, has passed the McMahon family in terms of the power dynamic in professional wrestling, something that isn't expected to change for some time. Pro wrestling has more than one royal family. Unfortunately for Cody this time, it's not his that's on top. Now go watch Luke and Dan react to the shocking news in their emergency SmackDown podcast.